Another episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. Today we are talking about what happens when we pass away. And warning, we are not going to talk about anything really when it comes to religious perspective of passing away, where we're going to talk about the soul being eternal. We are going to talk about lives between lives. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Madison. I am a medium and Akashic Records reader. I am a Reiki practitioner. And so everything we're going to be talking about today is all from my experience working with and channeling spirits, as well as my experience working and channeling in the Akashic Records around what happens with the lives between lives process, what happens when souls pass over, and we're also going to get into a little bit of why some spirits stay stuck in certain locations. So let's get into it. I pulled a card to get us started, and what I did was I connected with this deck of angel cards, and I connected with the intention of being able to pull a message that was going to resonate with the audience that was tuning in today. So if you are tuning in, this message was definitely picked from your angel team with you in mind. Here is the message. No toxicity. Detoxify your relationships. Your angels want you to remove toxic patterns from your relationships. There is a need to review a current relationship and make a change for the better. If you cannot mend it and move forward, it's okay to let it go. Light a white candle today and thank your angels from protecting you from the energy that no longer serves you. So, if you were getting this message, I'm sure there was somebody that immediately came to mind, or a relationship that immediately came to mind that maybe you've been wondering about, looking for clarity or guidance on. That is how we use cards as a divination tool. So, the concept of using cards as a divination tool is the concept that you can ask a question, ask for a sign, ask for guidance or validation, and that message come through from your spirit team in the form of cards. So that is why I love working with cards, because no matter how many I've worked with tarot, oracle, angel cards, all the things, and every single time it works. I used to refer to it as card magic because it's almost like I have no idea how the guides always know what I need to hear, what needs to come through, but it always works out perfectly. So let's get into it. What happens when we pass away? So I have worked with a lot of spirits. I've done a lot of mediumship readings, not only for myself, but also for my clients. And one thing that has really stood out is very much the concept that we are all eternal beings and we are all actually a soul having a human experience. So, all of us that are incarnated here on earth, we all chose to come here and incarnate during this time. Nobody's accidentally here, and everybody has a plan for their life, and everybody also has sort of a predestined way that that lifetime is going to come to a close here in the physical. So, one thing that we really struggle with as humans is thinking that when somebody is no longer here in the 3D, it means that they're no longer with us. And first thing I want to say is it does take spirits a little while before they pass over and can come back working as a spirit guide. But here's generally what happens. Whenever people are in the process of passing away, what normally happens is we all have spirit teams that are assigned to us to help us pass. It's normally going to be a team of angels, ascended masters, and also loved ones. So maybe your mom has been looking after you as one of your spirit guides. She might be one of the spirit guides that's actually there whenever you're crossing over to the other side. So the concept of crossing over to the other side, or really having the soul kind of leave the 3D body, is very much a safe process. So, whenever people talk about going into the light, you're literally going back to reconnect with the divine source energy in which you came from. So, I personally believe that we are all fractals of God, source, love, energy. And essentially, at one point, there was this, let's say, giant ball of God, source, light, frequency, energy. And then we all decided, like, I want to kind of have my own experience. So we all started to fractal off from this God source energy into what we now know as the soul. And so the soul has lived many lifetimes and has chosen to incarnate in lots of different ways. And so in this lifetime, I am incarnated as a woman named Madison, but I have gone in and looked at past lives where I was a man, where I was a aquatic being. We all have lots of different lives that we've lived within this soul essence, just choosing to incarnate different into the physical world to be able to experience different things. So what that really looks like is whenever you come here, there is always a plan. Nobody accidentally ends up, incarnating here on earth. Everybody who comes here normally comes here with a mission of the soul. A lot of times it's about the evolution of the soul, whether it be learning about love, learning about the 3D, having experiences, whatever that looks like. A lot of validation that I've gotten in the spirit realm that us leaving our physical body isn't at all the end. It's just the end of this physical chapter. And then we move into this space of crossing over, reconnecting with our spirit guides that have been with us throughout our entire journey. And then I believe we all go through a life review process. So, in a lot of religions refer to heaven and hell. And what I believe that they're referring to is whenever you go through this life review process, some people look back on what they came here to do in this life versus what they were able to accomplish. And that gives a feeling of ecstasy. Maybe they feel like, oh my gosh, I did everything I came here to be. I did everything I came here to accomplish. Look at me go. On the flip side of that, some people have that looking back at their life here and realize they didn't at all complete their mission or purpose. Maybe they allowed worldly pleasures or distractions or addictions to sort of get in their way or keep them off track a little bit. But a lot of times, that experience of having that life review compared to what you came into this life to do, I believe creates the experience of heaven or hell that people refer to in religions, meaning that you can look back and be like, man, I did it all. This is great, and have that amazing feeling. The flip side, you can also look back and be like, man, I didn't do anything, and now I'm in kind of this, maybe more negative space. The energy of how that life review process goes is what I believe is actually the concept of heaven and hell. It's not really a place, it's more of a physical vibration based on how you look back at your past life. Because for me, for example, I came into this life with the sole purpose of helping to awaken as many people as possible in the spiritual and metaphysical realm. It took me a long time to realize that's what I came here to do, but in short, that's what I came here to do, was to shed the 3D, to shed the matrix, to break out of religious programming, and instead to allow people to realize that God is not outside of us, God is within all of us, and to also teach people that they can be their own energy healer through giving themselves Reiki healing, that they can channel their own spirit guides through the Akashic Records, that they don't necessarily always have to look outside of themselves to be able to get the answers that they're looking for from a spiritual perspective. So I have had sort of a couple mini life reviews, right? Where I've been in points where I've realized like I really got off track. And so some people go through the process of having sort of these life review moments while they're in the physical as well. And that can also be referred to as like creating your own heaven or hell. Because for me, it was kind of like looking back and realizing I'd created my own personal hell. And for me, if you're new here and you don't know my story, I struggled with addiction for about 10 or 12 years. And I very much have sort of channeled into, different timelines that I could have taken. And it's been very clear that, like, yeah, now I'm in my purpose. But there was always a timeline where I could have chosen to continue down the path of addiction and never found the spiritual connection and enlightenment that I'm walking with and working through today. And so it's almost like we all come here with a purpose, but then because we don't remember what that purpose is when we reincarnate here, and because sometimes we get distracted by the pleasures of the 3D, sometimes we get to a point where we realize, okay, I did all these things the world told me I needed to do, and like I'm not happy, I don't feel content, whatever that looks like. And that can kind of trigger this lifetime review. And I've gone through this a couple times in my life of being like, okay, the life that I have right now isn't actually the one that I want. The life that I've created actually isn't fulfilling, and why is that? And what do I need to do to change that? And a lot of people don't actually stop to have that life review or life check-in moment until the very end of life. So then anything that you haven't processed or thought about, whether it be like purpose, soul mission, family, whatever that you feel like you didn't accomplish, if you never take that time in life to sort of recalibrate, then when you get to the end, it can be very overwhelming and kind of create that sense of maybe heaven or hell. So I very much do not believe that heaven or hell is a place that you go based on the decisions you make. I very much believe it's an energetic state that you end up with after you pass as you're going through the life review process. So to kind of recap, we pass away, we have a team of angels that are sort of ushering us into the other side to allow us to feel safe. We reconnect with God's source energy. Then we are able to go through our life review. And then after the life review process, that's what we refer to as kind of the lives between lives, right? So you are not physically incarnated, but you are still existing. And so in the lives between lives space is a lot of times where people either feel very drawn to come back to Earth and work as a spirit guide for the people that they left behind, or it could be a time where they say, hey, my time here on Earth is done. I want to choose to reincarnate somewhere else. And I want to talk about that for just a minute because um, I've been doing a lot of research around the concept of there being essentially this reincarnation trap that's been here on Earth for, many, many years. And so there is a lot that shows that a lot of us came here to Earth as galactic volunteers, meaning we existed in other planets, other dimensions, other planes, and there was sort of a bat signal that went out, right? Like, hey, the people of Earth need help. They don't know that there is, anything besides Earth, and we need people to volunteer to go down as humans and sort of tell them that there's life outside of this and that God is within themselves, not outside of themselves, all these different concepts, right? And a lot of people came with that intention and then got stuck into the karmic cycles of Earth and essentially couldn't leave, right? So a lot of us probably came here expecting to have one life on Earth. Maybe now we've had 50 because in the process we've either encountered karma, we have gotten ourselves stuck in this reincarnation loop, something like that. Now, this reincarnation trap that has existed is very much gone. So basically, the light energies or the extraterrestrials that are helping us have come in and kind of gotten rid of that reincarnation trap. So now, whenever we pass away, from this lifetime and onward, we actually will have the option of, do I even want to come back to Earth and reincarnate there? Or do I want to go maybe to another place or to maybe my home planet? And if you are new to thinking about just the concept of life existing outside of Earth, I want to take a moment and just touch on that. What I believe and what I've channeled is that there are a lot of other extraterrestrial beings, planets, societies, civilizations. Some are more advanced than us, some are less advanced than us, but it's definitely not just Earth and just humans, right? And so a lot of us did not come here. It's not like where our soul originated, right? So maybe we feel very much drawn to go somewhere else. Like we feel like, I don't know why, I've never felt like I was home, I never felt like I was belonging here. And that's a very common feeling that a lot of galactic volunteers have, is this concept of sort of thinking that, oh yeah, I don't feel like I belong, and they don't feel like they belong because ultimately their soul is not from here and is not really comfortable maybe being in the 3D density. Because whenever we incarnate into the 3D, we normally do it specifically with the concept of wanting to be able to experience duality. So back to whenever I was talking about, at the beginning, we were all this ball of like light and source, and it's almost like in that energy, you couldn't experience the duality. You couldn't experience good because bad didn't exist. And one of the only ways you can truly experience that duality is through coming to Earth and going through, some people refer to as Earth Academy, and it's very much the concept that by incarnating into the 3D, it's one of the toughest soul lessons that you'll go through because there are so many experiences and emotions and things that are set up from the dark to keep us trapped in these different cycles, right? So while we're in sort of the lives between lives stage, we can choose to reincarnate as a human. We could choose to reincarnate into another planet or into another civilization, maybe go back to where our original soul family is from. Or we can choose to work as a spirit guide or an angel, helping those that are still in the 3D that we left behind. And so you don't have to be doing that all of the time. Sometimes people in their lives between lives are just healing, just experiencing, just being. Sometimes people cross over to the other side and they're very much like, I have to go back and start helping my family immediately. Everybody gets to make their own choice because this entire process is all about free will, right? Prior, it hasn't always been, as I mentioned, kind of the reincarnation loop. Like prior, it wasn't really an option to choose to reincarnate off planet after having been here. Now it is. So that's definitely something that is really good, especially for those of us light workers who came here with a specific mission, and once we're done, maybe we feel the need to go back to other places. So during this entire process, it is for the most part, a very peaceful process. The main place where people might struggle or run into challenges is that life review. And so, if you've never done a life review, I would definitely recommend you doing that before you pass away. Because, as I mentioned, I've done several in this life, and each one has given me an opportunity to clear karma, recalibrate, and get back on the right path. So that way, whenever I get to the end, I'm not like, oh my gosh, I have so many regrets, I was so out of alignment. And that I think is something that really helps you to feel a little bit more safe and a little bit more calm in that lives between lives section as well. So, overall, the process of passing away, a lot of times we hear in the human think, like, oh my gosh, it's so terrible, it's so sad to watch, it's so hard to watch. And it is, but it's also incredibly empowering for the soul to be able to continue the evolution. So, a big message that was coming through from my spirit guides as I was just thinking about what to talk about in this video was a lot of validation that your spirit team and your past loved ones, one, that they're safe, but two, but they're also likely around, right? Not every single person that we do life with chooses to come back and act as a part of our spirit team, but a lot of them do. So a lot of validation just coming through in kind of this channeled message that your spirit team and your spirit guides are always around, and you can also always reach out to them whenever you need help or support or guidance or whatever that feels like. Because a lot of times life can feel pretty lonely here, but then whenever you remember, oh yeah, I have an entire team, of angels, of spirit guides that are wanting to step in and help me, it can make things a little bit easier. So that is a little bit about what happens when we pass away. If you guys have any questions I didn't answer, feel free to drop them in the comments. And I did just want to give you guys a little announcement of some exciting things that I have coming up. So if you are in Greensboro, I am starting a spiritual circle every Tuesday at 6 p.m. It is donation based, so feel free to come, enjoy community, and we will have a different spiritual topic every single week. I also just started her sacred circle with a friend of mine, Veronica. It is going to be this Thursday, August the 21st at 6:30 p.m. All of this is linked in my website that will be in the show notes and also in my bio. And then if you want to work with me one-on-one, I do offer virtual and in-person options. I have a location in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I also have a completely online learning center. So I have the 5D Ascension membership, which is a membership where pretty much all of my in-person classes and workshops get posted to. So if you are not in the Greensboro area, still want access to the same activations, but maybe for a lower cost, the 5D Ascension membership is a great way to do that. The other thing I wanted to tell you guys about is we do still have one spot left for our Sedona retreat. Our Sedona retreat is coming up September the 21st to the 26th of 2025. We would love to see you there. Every day we are going to have one fun outdoor nature thing we do, and also one fun spiritual connection or activation that we do. We're going to be doing energy work in a vortex, cacao ceremonies, going horseback riding, all the things. So I would love to have you join us. That is also going to be linked in the show notes and in my bio. Again, my name was Madison. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys on Friday at 11:11 for our next live.